Good afternoon. My name is Monika Chaba, and I represent DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. I am very pleased to be with you today to celebrate the World Hearing Day and to take part in this important lunch debate on empowering yourself. My presentation will focus on the Disability Employment Package, which is one of the 7 flagship initiatives of the Strategy for the Rights of Persons with Disabilities for the years 2021-2030. The Disability Employment Package also aims at empowering not only persons with disabilities, but also employers, public authorities, civil society, and all the actors who can help, who can support persons with disabilities to get quality jobs and to maintain these jobs and all to return to employment. So the starting point for the disability employment package for coming up with the disability employment package is one of the 7 flagship initiatives of the strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities is a continuous disadvantaged situation of persons with disabilities in the labor market. On the left side you see the almost flat line, and this flat line presents the gap in employment between persons with and without disabilities in the EU. As you can see, it remains at about 22 percentage points, and it hasn't really changed for the last decade almost. What it means? It means that out of 48 million of persons with disabilities of working age, only about half are in employment, and a lot of them, almost 40% or around 40%, is inactive. This number is even worse for women with disabilities, and I would say it's a dire number for young persons with disabilities, out of which 30% is neither in employment, training, or education. What's more is that when persons with disabilities are in employment, their employment is not a very high quality, which means a lot of them are working on precarious employment, on short-term contracts, or in sheltered employment. So this is our starting point. We've seen that the situation hasn't really changed in spite of a number of measures that are implemented on the EU and national level. So we've decided to focus on employment in the strategy for the rights of persons with disabilities. The strategy of persons with disabilities focuses on a lot of areas. The strategy aims at improving the lives of persons with disabilities and is quite comprehensive. So the package should not be looked at in isolation, but as one of the many flagship initiatives. However, we wanted to have an initiative focusing specifically on employment because of the situation that I've just mentioned. The package, the disability employment package, is a slightly different Commission initiative in a sense that it's not a recommendation, it's not a directive. It is a set of guidance and practices. On the EU level, we already have a directive. We have the Employment Equality Directive from the year 2000, which prohibits discrimination in employment also on the basis of disabilities. So the legal basis is there. Moreover, the directive requires employers to put in place so-called reasonable accommodation. When we did the evaluation of this directive, we concluded that there is little awareness of it, of what it implies, who is responsible for what, at what stage of recruitment or employment. So we realized that what is needed is a little bit of awareness raising and a little bit of pedagogy. So that's why the disability employment package is a set of guidance and practices, because we felt that's what's needed for the employers and other actors involved in either training or employment or recruitment of persons with disabilities. So the package focuses comprehensively on all stages of employment, from recruitment and career guidance, through hiring, through the provision of reasonable accommodation, through retention of persons with disabilities in employment, return to work, and also alternative employment and transition from alternative employment to the open labor market. What is important is that with the package we also try to fight the stereotypes, both about the potential of persons with disabilities, but also about the cost of adapting either working schedule or workplaces. And I would like to present very briefly now the deliverables that focus on all those stages. So we have issued a toolkit for public employment services to improve recruitment of persons with disabilities. The toolkit has been developed by the Network of Public Employment Services, and it focuses on 6 different areas of action, from PES internal measures such as training on recruitment policies, performance targets, through services which includes provision of information, guidance, job placements, through active labor market programs, and on how to make those active labor market programs accessible and inclusive. It touches on reasonable accommodation, the provision of reasonable accommodation also in public employment services. It also focuses on outreaching programs, which is very important for persons with disabilities who very often do not have access to the programs, to job advertisements, etc. It also focuses on engaging in partnerships and includes a number of examples and models. So it's on one hand very instructional, on the other hand it provides examples, good practices from public employment services from across Europe. Another deliverable of the package, which in a way complements the toolkit on recruitment, is the career guidance paper called a briefing note, which has been developed by the European Centre for the Development of Vocational Training, and it focuses on accessible and inclusive lifelong training. It provides information on recent developments, policy developments, what's happening on the ground, how to develop career management skills, how to develop high quality support provision that is accessible and inclusive. It focuses on targeted training, it explains what is universal coverage, and it presents as all the deliverables of the package examples and practices. We have also developed a catalogue of positive actions. This is slightly different deliverable of the package, as it is not a guidance, it's simply a catalogue of practices that we have collected throughout Europe. It includes over 40 examples that are categorized on the basis of what they concern. So this includes support services for business, provision of subsidies, quotas, or awareness raising campaigns. We try to focus, we try to ensure geographical balance. As you could see, different examples from awareness raising through provision of training, through development of platforms, through provision of information campaigns or different awards. We've also issued a guidance on reasonable accommodation. As I have informed at the beginning, we felt this is very much needed for employers to explain what are their roles, but also what are the legal obligations. So we try to provide information and definition of reasonable accommodation, but also information on what is not reasonable accommodation to avoid that certain activities are considered by employers as reasonable accommodation, which in fact is not. So we try to explain very in detail which elements count as reasonable accommodation and which do not. We explain in the guidelines on who is responsible, at which stages, how to implement it in different stages, including recruitment, including career advancement. We also provide useful national links on getting support, including also financial support, and we provide examples on methods and also some practical examples that we've collected throughout Europe. This guidance, as we consider, is quite important. We translated it into all the languages of the EU. We have also developed two guidelines on staying at work and return to work. These guidelines have been developed on the basis of the resources of the EU Agency for Health and Safety at Work. This agency also created a single entry point on disability, so anybody interested in sort of health and safety aspects of employment of persons with disability can go on the website of this agency and under one single tab find all information. But what we've done, we've created guidelines for effective vocational rehabilitation schemes, which includes, again, which explain what is vocational rehabilitation, how to implement it, and it provides a lot of examples and links. And we've also created a manual for managing chronic diseases at work. So this manual, again, is very instructional, and it gives information for employers on how to retain persons with disabilities in employment and how to avoid early retirement of persons with disabilities. Both guidelines include a lot of examples and a lot of links. And our last deliverable focuses on alternative employment models. As I've mentioned at the beginning, a lot of persons with disabilities work in so-called sheltered employment. This kind of employment differs throughout Europe. Not all sheltered employment settings provide quality employment, and we needed to take stock on what's happening on the EU level. So the study on one hand provides a mapping on the situation on the EU level, on the legal and policy frameworks. On the other hand, it provides in-depth analysis of the situation in 8 countries, where it looks into the impact of this kind of employment transition into the open labor markets and other elements, such as the coverage by the labor law and the situation of the employee. The study also provides 20 good practices, which could be useful and inspirational for this kind of settings. as well as recommendations for the EU level, for the national level, very detailed recommendations on how to make sure that alternative employment models provide quality employment, but also that they ensure transition to the open labor market. What is very important about this study, that it looked also in a supported employment model, which is a model that supports persons with disabilities in having a job in the open labor market. It's not yet widely implemented. There are still some challenges, but the recommendations also focus on how to implement this model of employment, which we in the European Commission feel is very valuable because it focuses on the open labor market and it supports the employment in the open labor market. All the deliverables of the package are available on the website, and I invite all of you to go to the website to download the guidelines and the examples and to share, because we have developed all those guidelines together with different stakeholders, including the EFHOH, and I thank you very much for your valuable contribution and the focus on hard of hearing persons and persons who are deaf. Also many other stakeholders representing different disabilities, the European Disability Forum, the social partners, the public authorities, the experts. So we feel we've developed quality guidance and we've very carefully selected the examples, and I would like to disseminate the package. And with these words, I thank you very much for inviting me to this important event and for the celebration that is taking place. And I wish you a successful event. Thank you very much.